All right.
So we're live now?
We're live now.
All right, excellent. So, thank you everybody for participating in this session today. I'm hoping that all of you are able to hear me when I'm actually sharing information with you. And we're hoping that you can actually save some of your questions for the end of the presentation. And definitely, if you can, feel free to capture the questions via chat as well. So if you have something in your mind that you want to immediately share with us, just put it out there, and I'll do my best to go back and review the questions and provide a response to you. So by now, you actually have a presentation in front of you regarding the Federal Internship for Newcomers program. And I'm assuming a lot of you, this is the first time that you're actually receiving information on the program in detail. And I'd like to begin actually with some very quick facts about the program, and also when we began and the relationship between WUSC and FIN. So on page 3, you're going to be able to find information regarding the FIN program, and also how we realize as a program that newcomers to Canada require valuable work experience to be able to integrate into the Canadian labor market. And we figured that there was a need for newcomers to access services that will enhance their possibility of employment in the public service. And therefore we decided to create the FIN program in order to provide short-term and temporary work experience. It's also managed by IRCC in the Settlement and Integration Policy Branch in partnership with other immigrant-saving organizations, including WUSC. And the FIN program currently is actually delivered in multiple locations, including Ottawa-Gatineau, the GTA region, Victoria, Halifax, and St. John's. And for you as participants of the program through WUSC, you're eligible to apply anywhere, regardless of where you're actually residing. So if you're interested in applying to positions in the CR, PN, EC, AS, FI, you're more than welcome to submit an application when we go live on May 3rd and 4th. So a very quick overview when the program was launched. It was actually launched back in 2010, and it has provided internships to more than 600 newcomers from approximately 80 countries in government organizations. So of these participants, 22 have been graduates of WUSC, and we've been able to place them in organizations providing them with temporary and sometimes indeterminate positions later on after their internships. The FIN program internships are actually intended to help you start your career, but as a program is not intended to provide indeterminate positions. Some of the eligibility criteria for you to remember as a WUSC participant: you need to be a graduate of the WUSC Student Refugee Program, the SRP, and also having a permanent resident or Canadian citizen in Canada for 10 years or less. So, and that actually counts from the day you become a permanent resident to the day you apply for the program. You actually have to live in Canada at the time of the application. This is another requirement for the participation of the program. And also, we thought it would be appropriate to provide you with information about some useful resources during your application process. If you're actually located in the National Capital Region, we highly recommend that you actually connect with WorldSkills or CITO, so you can actually acquire support from WorldSkills and preparation related to the FIN program. Also, there are other immigrant-saving organizations for those who reside outside the National Capital Region, and we recommend that if you are in any of the delivery locations like St. John's, Halifax, Toronto, Victoria, make sure you contact one of the immigrant serving organization partners to receive preparation for the FIN program, and they're fully aware of the program. And for your use, we actually included in the presentation a link with the list of all the ISO partners. As you can see later on, you're able to click in that resource link, and that will take you directly to the list of participating organizations in your region to receive free preparation as well. And also, if you happen to be in one of the cities where we don't have an immediate ISO partner, we also recommend that you connect with your university career services. Pardon me, as many of you know, a lot of universities have student employment services, so a lot of them are able to provide services in terms of job readiness, mock interviews. So we really recommend that if you have an opportunity now to connect with the student career services, so you can actually prepare for the FIN program and get ready before you apply on May 3rd and 4th. Again, most universities provide these resources and training, and we really encourage you to attend any of these organizations to receive services. Again, if you're in Ottawa, WorldSkills, if you're in any of the regions, GTA, Halifax, Victoria, or St. John's, visit the link and make sure to look at the name of the organizations supporting preparation for FIN participants. And if you're not in any of those cities but you require support, again, make sure to contact your university career services or student employment services to gain support in terms of resume writing and mock interviews as well. So now moving along on the next page, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of our role and WUSC role, so you understand what is the relationship that we actually have with the program and the way we deliver services. So WUSC refers job-ready candidates to apply to the Public Service Commission for jobs.gc.ca, and also informs you, the candidates, of the application date. So by now you should know that the application dates are for May 3rd and 4th, and that's when the applications go live through GC Jobs. So on our end, IRCC, we receive applications submitted through GC Jobs website, and also we actually receive the applications for an initial electronic screening process. Then we screen the applications against the statement of merit criteria we have developed specifically for the FIN program and the job categories. And of course, if you meet the criteria, we will conduct formal interviews and create pools of qualified candidates. Also, part of our role as a program is to promote the FIN program to potential employers and refer the resumes of qualified applicants to potential employers in government. So essentially, in less bureaucratic lingo, what that means is we promote the program, we look for employers, we make sure that we're really raising awareness about the program everywhere in the delivery locations. And once we're able to identify potential hiring managers, we will be referring your resume to the managers for potential employment opportunities. Moving along on the next slide, the role of the hiring manager, so you understand from the perspective of a potential hiring manager. Once we actually refer your resume, of course, they receive the resume with the name of the participants. That may include your name, depending on the category level and employment opportunities. The hiring manager will conduct an informal interview to select the right fit for the team. And what the right fit means really is actually finding the person who has not only the education background and skills, but also brings other elements into the team and the workplace, and also has the right set of soft skills for the job. The hiring manager will actually check your references if they happen to be interested in hiring you for the job. They will complete the security clearance process for those candidates who they select for the job and pay your salary. Also, just a reminder that successful candidates might be offered casual placements for 90 working days, and that's part of the casual contract tenure in the public service. So ideally, we would like to start in September, so those candidates who actually receive employment opportunities in the public service are actually placed in September. They finish their first 90 working day contract in December, and the second one should begin in January all the way through May. So that's the ideal scenario. But again, depending on the time when you are hired and selected for the job, it could be right in the middle of the year, and then unfortunately you will have an opportunity for only 90 days. So we're hoping that if you make it through the selection process, everybody should be placed in September, so you gain and maximize the opportunity in your placement, in your internship. So don't forget that you're applying to temporary employment opportunities, and they can be placements can actually take place at the provincial, municipal, or federal governments. Okay, and locally, for those participants who have been placed at the municipal and provincial level, they don't have to deal with the same employment barriers, because the municipal government and provincial government have other staffing mechanisms. So that being said, you will start with a casual, potentially a short-term contract, and if you happen to be the right candidate for the job, they may consider you for something else, hopefully longer term. Moving along on page number 8, maybe this is a good place to have a pause and answer questions from you, and then I'll move along and start delivering the rest of the presentation. So the microphone is open, it's all yours, so this is the time for you guys to ask me any questions so far. Anybody? No questions. Wow, clear as mud, eh? All right. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, I'm going to move along to the next part of the presentation. But please don't be shy, because if you don't ask the questions that you may have in mind right now, it'll be more difficult to get an answer later. So I'm hoping that you'll take the time to think about it and then come back and ask any questions later, okay? So for the second part of the presentation, we're going to be talking about the application and the screening process. So, a reminder, when you're applying to the program, you're not applying to a very specific job. It's actually an application to be considered for an inventory or a pool. That's a word, the lingo used internally in the public service. It's essentially an inventory of talented, qualified individuals for each one of the specific categories, who meet the criteria, of course. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do in order to register to the film program is actually create your profile at GC Jobs. You have to go to the link provided in the presentation. Make sure that if you haven't created a profile, you go in and register and start creating an account. And you're going to need the following information. Of course, you need to provide an email address, and the appropriate password to be able to get in your profile, and also a hint question. You need to input your personal information and ensure that you enter your name exactly as it appears on your permanent resident card or passport. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because that's the name that we're actually looking for when we receive the applications online. And you need to include your address, your personal information, and also contact information related to the to your profile for jobs, for GC jobs. After you complete the initial part of the profile, you're actually going to receive a validation email, and it will be sent to your address, letting you know that your profile is active. Moving along, the second step for you will be to prepare, and I highly recommend that you actually take the steps in consideration for the success of your application in the selection process. So, for your preparation and before the preparation dates, I recommend that you actually attend the fin information sessions where possible, like the one today. I'm very glad to see that we have some people participating, and this is an opportunity for you to learn more details about the program and how to apply to the program. Also, make sure you get help from one of the useful resources available and previously given to you. Again, once the specifics posed in the regions where we deliver the program, and make sure you get the services that you require in terms to prepare resume and receive also preparation for mock interviews or interviews. Make sure you identify your transferable skills, and also because they're very relevant for each one of the job categories that we have created. So again, what this means, I know so bureaucratic terms, make sure you identify the skills that you have that you see transferable for the jobs that you're applying to. One technique that we highly recommend for your success in the selection process is the use of the STAR technique. You're going to need to create a detailed list of accomplishments for easy access to examples of previous work. And at the end, we're going to discuss what that means in detail, and also how you can make the connections, when you're applying to jobs in the public service. Start developing a resume for each one of the categories, and make sure you tailor them specific to the jobs you're applying. Something a lot of people forget when they're applying to jobs in the public service is that they use very generic, very long resumes that don't apply to the specific requirement or the essential requirement or experience for the job. So that potentially becomes problematic, because rather than having a very strong tailored resume, you have a very general, broad resume that doesn't really highlight your skills, education, and experience. So that becomes a problem for you. So don't forget that. Moving along, on the next slide. Step 3, apply online. After you created the initial GC Jobs account, if you recall, I mentioned you have to create the profile, input your information, then you can apply for the fin internships on GC Jobs on May 3rd and 4th. Don't forget, these dates are important, and they're going to be open only for 48 hours. The application will be open for 48 hours. So if you miss the deadline, that's it. You won't be able to apply to these employment opportunities for the fin program. Also, again, make sure to include your name as it appears in your passport or permanent resident card. Full legal name. That's what we need to see. The third point, and when asked to name the immigrant saving organization that refer you to the program, don't forget, is WUSC. They are your immigrant saving organization. They are who we have on file, And that's how we identify you being registered with WUSC and as a participant of the program. If you forget, most likely we won't include you in the preliminary inventory, so make sure to always include the name in your application. So if you're asked during your application if you are a graduate of WUSC, the SRP, your answer is yes. Don't forget, it's very simple, but you will be surprised at how many things people forget, and it's always problematic. So make sure you flag that, okay? Don't forget, WUSC is your immigrant civil organization, and did you graduate from WUSC in the SRP? Yes. Good to go. Also, if you're going to be applying to multiple job categories, and that means, you know, the clerical position for the CR, administrative services for the AS, project officer for the PM, policy analyst, or that would be for the EC, or computer sciences for the CS. Make sure that you actually submit a separate application, and make sure you're always applying and responding with precise and clear answers to each one of the questions. So don't copy and paste anything that you have for the clerical position and use it for the policy analyst position, because most likely you're going to be disqualified. You have to be very mindful of the responses and tailor carefully the way you are actually responding to each one of those questions. Again, thoroughly answer the questions that will be assessing your education and experience. Providing partial or fully written answers will cause an application to be screened out. Again, I'm repeating the same part of the previous point. If you don't respond carefully and in a precise manner, most likely you're going to be disqualified. And always, 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 again, always use the STAR technique. So moving along, again, a list of do's and don'ts, and I hope you guys actually eventually take the time to read this list carefully. I find that it's very helpful for people. It's a good reminder of the things that you shouldn't do or you should do when you're applying to the FIN program. So very quickly we can go through them. So do make sure you have enough time to answer all the questions. Pardon me, the application process is only open for 48 hours, and I mentioned to you, so if you can work with an MS Word document on the side offline, you know, craft your responses carefully. So when you're actually online applying, you can literally copy and paste and include the right responses into your online application. Again, do tailor your responses to each one of the questions using the STAR technique. Again, another reminder of the same thing, so don't forget. I've seen it before, guys, so we could be telling you this 3, 4, 5 times and people forget to use this technique, okay? And that's across the board. It's not only for WUSC participants, that includes any other participant, even when you're applying to any other job in the public service. It's a good technique to use, and it's been proven successful, so make sure that you use it. Do limit your answers to 250 words each. Make sure you use the spell check and word count before you submit your responses. Don't provide partial answers. Always complete the response. Do address all of the key components of each question. Provide concrete examples for each one of the questions. Once again, do not copy and paste the same the same answer for every single question. You know, make sure that you tailor the response. Make sure that you're responding clearly, and that the response is actually clearly related to the question. Don't apply to jobs if you don't have experience and if you cannot provide answers to the criteria. I know a lot of you guys now are thinking about, well, you know, I'm a student, I don't know, maybe I don't have the experience, but most likely you do have experience, but you have to find a way to look at the transferable skills, not necessarily work experience, but I'm sure you have had projects, university presentations, collaboration, volunteer work that you can actually use as your example for the responses in some of the questions that you will be asked during the application. So again, don't forget, however, if you don't have it, don't write it down. If you can provide answers, don't stretch it, because then it's just not going to be a good response period. But if you know that somehow you acquired experience and you can identify the transferable skills, use it as part of your response. The last one is actually do copy and paste your answers into the online application. Again, it's a good way to save time. Make sure you're using Microsoft Word on the offline. Respond and then copy and paste the responses directly. All right, so moving along on page 14. Now we are talking about what happens after you submit your application. So if your application passes the initial electronic screening, you will be notified through GC Jobs. So they will let you know immediately whether your application makes it through or not. The next point, your application will be sent to us, the FIN team at IRCC, for further assessment. The FIN team will verify that you were referred to the FIN program by WUSC, and this is why I was telling you earlier, you really need to make sure to include WUSC in the application as your immigrant serving organization, so we can cross-reference that you already registered and belong to the SRP. Each position has a Statement of Merit Criteria, or SOMC, in the Public Service Commission's generic human resource document that is actually used to create the employment opportunities for the FIN program, and also used to assess qualifications, including education, experience, and abilities and personal suitability. Your responses to the application questions must demonstrate that you meet the education and experience requirements to qualify for an interview. So again, you have to provide clear, precise, and concise answers to make sure that you meet the essential requirements for the job and potentially being called in for an interview and assessed further. If your application qualifies, you will be sent an email inviting you for an interview sometime between June and August. So for some of you who already have the intention of going away in the summer, make sure that you keep this in mind, because we actually run interviews in the summer. Once you begin to receive emails related to the status of your application from the FIN team, all the messages that you received in your GC Jobs account, they will be invalid. So essentially from that point forward, when the team is communicating directly with you, that means that you actually need to take in consideration all responses directly from us as the final answer. Okay, page 15. Please note the resume that you uploaded through GC Jobs will not be seen at IRCC at any stage. So it's actually necessary to create your online application, and it's actually needed for your profile. However, the team looks at your resume not until the day of the interview. That's when we actually see your resume. Also, you must provide updated contact information to us. If your information changes, you have to let us know right away. And this is important for us, because if we can't get a hold of you, or the hiring manager is not able to reach you, there is a potential of missing an employment opportunity as well, and also receiving any notifications and updates from the team during your selection process. So I highly recommend that you start gathering documents, because they will be needed the day you actually come in for the interview. So if available, make sure you bring your permanent resident card, Canadian passport, landing papers, SIM card, or 2 pieces of government ID, birth certificate, passports from other country of origin, or any other passport for those who actually have multiple citizenships. And the reason why is because this is important for us to provide information ahead of time for the security clearance screening, and also include professional references in your resume. Okay, so preparing for the Fin interview, read the email invitation thoroughly and use it to prepare for your interview. Ask World Skills and Immigrant Saving Organization, or the Immigrant Saving Organization you registered, to help you prepare for the interview. Sorry. Come to the interview prepared 30 minutes early, so you will be asked to show up 30 minutes ahead of time. And the reason why is because there has to be a document verification. Possibly, depending on if you apply to the clerical positions, you may have a proofreading exercise, and that goes for the clerical position and the administrative stream. Also, again, bring the documents that we requested, and you will see more details in the invitation email that you will receive. Also, the last point is the interview will assess your skills, knowledge, abilities, and personal suitability. Fin interviews are formal, structured government interviews, and what that means is that unlike the private sector, there's a rating guide that people are using during the interview stage. So most likely you'll see people taking notes, not looking at you when they're actually taking notes, but it's because they're actually capturing every single point of the conversation that you're actually having with them at that point and putting everything on record. Again, use the STAR technique. You notice that we keep telling you this over and over and over and over, but there is a purpose and an intention, so don't forget. Moving along, on page 17, continuation with preparation for the Fin interview. So Fin interviews will only be scheduled under the following circumstances, and you have to provide supporting evidence. So during the summertime, if you happen to be sick, life happens. If you already booked in a trip abroad and it was prior to receiving the notification for the interview, understandable. Again, life happens. So all you need to do is to provide supporting documents, supporting evidence for us to be able to reschedule the interview. And of course, when a participant has a valid family emergency. So just keep that in mind in case that something happens and you're not able to show up to the interview. So if you fail to attend the interview with a good reason and you never notified the program and you never communicated with us, you will be eliminated from the process. So there won't be a second chance and you will need to wait until next year. So what happens after the interview? If you're successful in the interview, your name and your resume will be placed in a pool, again an inventory of qualified participants. You might be referred to positions in Ottawa, Gatineau, the GTA, the Greater Toronto Region, Victoria, Halifax, or St. John's. And also, when we connect with you, knowing that you are actually a WUSC participant and you are more mobile, we will ask you if you're actually interested in those jobs away from where you're currently residing. So this is part of that conversation that we have. Once again, we're hoping to begin all the hiring in September, and it's ongoing all the way through the following summer. Hiring managers may contact you at any point during the year, and you may or may not be contacted, and there is no guarantee that you actually will be placed. Again, we create these inventories to provide potential talent to employers, but also at the same time we have the challenge that we need to find employers for these opportunities in the public service. That's one of the reasons why these internships are not guaranteed. The number of placements varies each year depending on the needs of the hiring managers. If you're contacted by a hiring manager, you may be asked to participate in a job interview. We mentioned that multiple times. And because you will have already qualified in the fin pool, this interview might be less formal than the initial fin interview. So again, just a reminder of the layer. The very first interview, if you make it into the selection process, you will be called in for an initial interview, which is with a team. Pardon me. And what that means is that it's a very formal, structured government interview. However, if you make it into the pools and a manager is interested in hiring you, they will most likely have a more informal interview with you, one-on-one, and that will be actually directly related to the project, and managers will be more interested in getting to know you as a person, as a professional, and try to identify the suitabilities, either personal suitabilities and professional suitabilities for the position. It is very targeted to the job itself. So, but most likely those interviews, even though they're not as formal as the first interview, they're really trying to figure out if you're actually the best fit for the role and potentially hire you. So, if you receive an internship, you will be asked to finalize any forms required to complete the security clearance for the position. So again, this is all depending on the departments and agencies, and they will be actually collecting information from you to prepare the security clearance and submit it. And of course, all internships are pending your security background check, which can take up to 2 weeks, best case scenario. Worst case scenario, a month or 2, depending on the organization. Make sure to keep the fin team informed of any changes in your contact information and employment status. This is essential. Again, if we don't get any updates from you, you could be missing an opportunity for an employment opportunity. Benefits of the internship. As a fin intern, you will gain Canadian work experience and enhance your employability skills to help you improve your long-term career prospects. You will be able to expand your Canadian professional and peer networks. You will be matched with a public servant mentor. You will be provided with training, cross-cultural awareness, conflict resolution, soft skills, sessions on how to apply for external competitions in the public service, and also other workshops as well. You will have access to networking opportunities. Some of those events are organized by the team. And also, these additional supports will enhance your learning experience during your internship. And the reason why that's actually there is because we want you to understand that this is not just a job. It's also an opportunity to receive training that will enhance your professional and personal development. One of the notes that I have here is that internships in the federal public service are usually casual contracts, which means they cannot exceed the 90 working days in the department. However, if you start in September and you finish in December, there is a potential for you to continue in the new year and a new calendar year from January through May. Internships are not subject to the Public Service Employment Act. Fin interns are not considered employees. Fin interns cannot apply to internal processes, and fin interns can apply to external processes only. So, moving along. Questions. So now again, I open the floor to any questions that you may have, so feel free. Any questions?
Marilyn had asked a question on our chat. Marilyn, are you still there? Maybe I muted her. she's fine. Well, I can ask your question,
Sure.
Mary Len. So there's two questions actually.
Okay.
About creating, she said she was trying to create an account using the link sent through email, but it's not working. So to set up their profile to apply for the May 3rd and 4th, are they able to do anything in advance?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I would recommend that you double check if the link is not working right now. Most likely they are doing updates and working on the page. But if you actually want to go another route, you can always Google GC jobs, and usually you'll see the link again to apply for those jobs. It's highly recommended that you actually create your profile right away. Don't wait the day off, because it really takes time to complete the profile. So go ahead and do it right away if you need to.
Great. I think the second half of her question about healthcare sector positions.
Okay, so for the healthcare sector positions, we work with the Public Health Agency and Health Canada. And the jobs that they have are essentially for policy analyst jobs, mainly in Ottawa. And sometimes, in IRCC, we have positions within the public, within the health unit. And what that means is that within IRCC, some officers, when they need PMs, project officers, they need project officers with experience and background in the medical field or public health. And it's essentially to run projects that are related to public health. So I don't know if that answers your question, Marilyn. Any other questions?
And feel free, you can enter your questions in the chat box as well. Okay, so Mustaf has a question. Mustaf, can you, let's see. Great, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mustaf.
Yeah. Okay, hi. My name is So the voice is coming back to me. I don't know why.
There's an echo.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I got already an account with GC.
GC jobs, yeah.
Yeah, GC jobs. So will the positions be advertised in the IRCC organization?
So when you actually create a profile in GC jobs, you will see the notification going up when the jobs are actually live on May 3rd and 4th. And you know what the search bar is? You can actually type Federal Internship for Newcomers program, and during those 2 days, the jobs that we're actually listing, they will pop up. So you should be able to see them right away. But not yet, because we haven't posted anything, right? So that's why you won't see anything yet, not until May 3rd. Does that help?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Any other questions, either verbally or in the chat box?
Ball, do you have any questions? Okay.
It's because your presentation is so thorough.
Hello?
Dario.
Hello, who's this? Marilyn, can you speak a little louder, because you sound really far away? Sometimes we get employment opportunities with the Public Health Agency and Health Canada, yes. Do you want to type your question? Because I can barely hear you. I can barely hear you though.
There's a question coming in, opportunities in the engineering sector.
So, okay, that's a great question. The answer, unfortunately, is no. The reason why is because engineering is a regulated profession, and unless you actually already graduated from, the university and you have your certification ready to go, the only engineering jobs that we've had in the past were for the municipal government, but not for the federal public service. So currently, the only positions that we have available are the ones that we listed, which are clerical positions for the CR, administrative services (AS), project officer (PM), policy analysts (EC), and computer sciences (CS), but none for engineering. That being said, sometimes, depending on the job and depends on the year, we have received inquiries from people looking specifically for project management roles, but they're looking for individuals who have experience with engineering, either electricians, electrical engineers, or civil engineers, or it depends on the range, it depends on the job. So we don't have per se specific employment opportunities for engineers, but they're having opportunities for project officers with experience in engineering, in all the fields in engineering. So I don't know if that answers your question, Paul. Anybody else?
Marilyn has added a question.
So Marilyn, I would suggest that if your question is applying to the job right away, or wait until I have something from the public health sector, my recommendation to you would be to apply on May 3rd and 4th. Submit your application, because those jobs, they actually come our way, but you have to be qualified in the pools to be able to pull you out of that pool to place you in the in either Health Canada or the Public Health Agency. So yes, apply and make sure that you actually implement all the recommendations we gave you to be successful in the selection process. And if you make it into the pool when the jobs present for Health Canada and the Public Health Agency, then we can look into those individuals who have your set of skills and education. So, long answer for you. But yes, apply. Anybody else? Okay. Well, if there are no more questions.
Maybe I'll ask a question,
sure,
if I may, Dario.
Yes, please.
Thinking about some of our students who are interested, who weren't able to join the webinar today. Yes. A question about when they graduate in relation to when the FIN applications are open. So if they haven't graduated by May 3rd, if they're going to graduate at the end of the summer semester, or I have one student who's going to graduate by December 2018. Are they eligible to apply this year, or do they need to wait until...
They will need to wait. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately they will need to wait. But let's say if you were applying for the FIN program in May, but you know that you're actually graduating in June or July, by the time you're actually placed in September, you should be graduated.
Okay, so by September is the cutoff.
But if you're graduating in December and you're actually applying to the program, then
next year.
Then you should actually apply to the program next year, definitely.
Okay.
So I don't know if that makes sense.
That's helpful.
Yes.
For sure. Thank you.
Because usually what happens is they apply to the program, but there is a waiting period, right? So by the time they're placed in September, and if they graduated in June, July, or August, then we're good.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
And maybe while we have, I think there's 5 of you on the line, in my emails to the interested applicants, I've been suggesting that if it's helpful for you, we could arrange another webinar or put you in contact with some of the Fin interns that have already completed a Fin experience, just to learn a little bit more, well, about their actual work experience in the federal public service, but also tips about the application process. So for those of you who are on the line today, would that be helpful to speak to some of the other SRP students, alumni, who are also Fin alumni? So you can either answer verbally or make note in the chat box. If you think that would be helpful, I can connect you with some of our other alumni.
So Marilyn saying yes. Bol was typing, but I don't know if he's actually giving us. Yeah,
Great.
Mustaf, yes, that will be helpful.
Great, and thank you for those of you who've said yes, and I'll follow up with you individually. Certainly, I think in terms of the advice that Dario already gave about talking to career services on your campus and doing some practice interviews and getting your resume put together in a format that really highlights your transferable skills, those are really good recommendations. And if any of you want additional supports, there are other organizations that provide career mentoring support to newcomers. So reach out to me, Christine, at WUSC, and I can help connect you with some relevant resources for getting your resume shipshape.
Yeah, and don't forget, we provided resources too in the presentation. So there is a link where you can actually just click and look at the name of the organizations that provide services for you in your regions. That's best case scenario if you're nearby Halifax or Victoria or Toronto or St. John's. So don't forget, the information is there, it's handy, and you should be able to register with them right away if you meet the newcomer criteria. Free services for you regardless, so don't dismiss that opportunity, because it's not only services are not only available for you because you're a Fin participant, they're available to you because you're a newcomer in general. So highly recommend you that you actually follow through with the immigrant serving organizations. And also, just a reminder for all of you that Christine actually sent the Fin program application guide that we designed specifically for you, WUSC students, because in the past you are actually the lucky ones who are actually receiving this product for the first time. And we hope actually the information inside is helpful, because it highlights what we cover in the presentation deck, but also gives you, the program overview, gives you information on how to prepare, information on the application process. All of the points that we highlighted during the presentation are actually there in writing for you. So now you don't have an excuse that you didn't receive the information or you don't have it in writing, so you actually can be successful during the selection process. And if you are one of the few candidates or participants who receive the guide, I would recommend that you actually go and review page 9, which essentially is the annex, identifying the job categories that could be the best match for you. And there is a map out of the classification and level, the position title, the description of that position, and the responsibilities that may include for the job, and the preferred educational qualifications. So I think if you read that information, it's going to be very helpful for you to see where to apply, how to tailor your resume, and of course, look at the potential responsibilities for the job. And I find that the table really gives you a good overview of the role, and it will help you identify those transferable skills that you can actually use during your job search, not necessarily for the Fin program, but also for other external competitions in the public service, which is essentially what we're doing. We're mimicking an external selection process, and I find these tools to be very successful. And if I was you, I would be very happy to receive these now that I'm actually learning about it. Also, don't forget to review the information on page 10, which emphasizes again the importance of the STAR technique. Again, I've been sounding like a broken record with you guys, but there is an intention on this, because we know how important it is to use the STAR technique and how essential it is when you're actually providing a response, not only in writing, but also when you're formulating your responses during the interview as well. So, if you're not familiar with the STAR technique, what it means. The acronym is actually for situation, describing your organizational and job title; the task, describing the specific issue that you actually had to handle at the time; the action, describing the steps that you took to handle the issue; and the results, describe the final outcome. So I think if you keep that in mind once again, you will be actually prepared to have a very solid response during your interview and also during the completion of your application. Again, for some of you who actually received the application guide already, make sure to review the document. For those who haven't seen it yet, make sure to go back and check your email. And if you don't have it, just let Christine know, because she has a document ready and available to you. And I'm hoping that this information was actually helpful. And I guess if we don't have any other questions, we will probably resume the session.
Looks like Mustafa's typing. Maybe a final question. And anyone else, if you have questions, now's your chance.
You're welcome, Mustafa. Thank you, Donatien, Marilyn, John, Mustafa. Thank you for participating, and hopefully this information is going to be helpful to you guys.
A huge thank you to you, Dario, for doing this, for the actual webinar, and for all the preparation materials put together with WUSC SRP alumni in mind. It certainly is really helpful to have your guidance and advice.
My pleasure, and all the best to you guys. All the best, and I really hope to see a lot of your names during the application and selection process.
As colleagues in the future.
That's right. That's right. And some of you are my bosses, if you don't know this. Some of you previous WUSC participants are in very senior level jobs now in the public service. So you should take this very seriously, and knowing that there is a potential for a better and brighter future. So that's it.
Thank you so much. And for those of you on the line, I'll follow up, and I will send, we've been recording this presentation, so I'll send it around to all of you as well as the folks that weren't able to join today. So watch for that in your inbox soon, and follow up if you have any questions.
Bye.
Bye. So,